Howdy, howdy, Sue Devil here, and welcome to the preamble to the next set of videos that I'm going to be doing. And in this video, I'm basically going to go over how the next three will go. So, I guess to start, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to try to rank infantry for all factions against each other in some sort of way. Infantry versus infantry in a fight to get up with a kind of a top 10, a top 5, a sort of a ranking list. Now, there is a ton of infantry in this game. Just the Dawi have 20 infantry units here. I'm not going to be doing any of the regiments of renown, or be doing the base infantry. And in this first set, I'm going to be doing all infantry 400 gold and under, and coming up with sort of a top 5, bottom 5, and the middle grouping of that, and laying them out. And then, if I ever get time, I'll go 401 gold to 600 or something like that, and I'll just keep on pushing. So basically, I have 29 units under the 400 gold range that I've tested and ranked. And I'll go over a bit of how I've tested that. Now, I love to do testing for the Dawi, for my beloved dwarfs, and I wanted to include the dwarfs on one side of all these tests, just out of curiosity to see how they work out. Now, units under 400 gold are generally deemed expendable. You can see they have the expendable trait. You can go to lots of units that are under that 400 gold mark, like peasant mobs. They meat shield, poor leadership, expendable, like even down to a men-at-arms, they have the expendable trait, and on and on it goes. You grab goblins, and of course they're expendable as well. So I'll do my best to evaluate one element of these, and during the actual videos I'm not going to explain much of how I did anything. This is for anybody who wants the details behind the testing and they're curious about what part of this I am testing and how it's going to be. And for those of you that are interested, really this is sort of one element. This is only one piece. Like any kind of testing like this is extremely difficult to actually compare units in any meaningful way. So you get multiple tests that test multiple things, and you get multiple bits of information, and that's how you sort of make up, we'll say, the meta, or the array of all the tests, to give you an idea of how everything boils down. So what I'm doing for this test is I do like to give my tests I like to make my tests repeatable, and I like to make them so they're pretty consistent, so there aren't many things that are changing. So first of all, I'm testing all of the units under 400 gold just against the dwarf warriors. And, I could test them against many other units, but I know the Dwarf Warriors are really a top tier unit for their gold price, and I know that they will beat every single unit in the game underneath 400 gold. So I want to see how well those units that are cost below 400 gold actually perform against my Dwarf Warriors. And again, this is just one element of evaluating a infantry unit's total value. But I'm going to provide this element, really this one slice of the whole pie, and we'll go through and look at the top 29 from worst to first. And I will go through the middle, not just the top 5 and the bottom 5. I'm going to go through the middle 19, because I think a lot of people, you see these top 10 top 10 videos and, bottom 10 worst. You never see the middle sort of meh units, and I'm going to actually rank them as well. So I'll show the test. I'm doing all the testing on I've got 2 mods to do this. Pick any lord as your general, and the unit testing fields. So it's for testing custom, and you can test under many different fields. This is actually a really good mod for testing. So I'm going to test in the 100 by 100 field, just so I can minimize any other effects of units, of generals, and everything else like that. And then I'll just show you how I run all the tests. They're going to be exactly the same. I want to make them as repeatable as possible, so I can, in the future, like let's say you're watching this video in 2021 and you want to see how things have changed, if you rerun this test in this way, you'll actually be able to see any serious differences, and that's kind of what I like. So I take my units, I don't move them, I leave them in the formation they're in. I know formation matters, and I do have some videos showing the differences in formation and what effects they have, and I just start the battle and run them into each other. And what I do is basically I take a time at 59 minutes and 50 seconds for when the units collide. It's approximate. I basically take them all at the same time, and then I let the two units fight it out, and whenever the battle is ended, then I take that time again. So I'm going to go over to the spreadsheet. So and I do watch them all. Sometimes you see interesting things when you actually observe each fight, and being observant is an important part of doing any sort of testing. I've been an engineer for 25, 26 years now, and that's an important part of any applied science or testing or empirical evidence is observation. So I observe every fight and see if I notice anything weird, anything odd, anything interesting on top of this. But I just take that basic data. So then for those of you that are new to my channel and how I put the data into a spreadsheet, I'll show you that spreadsheet and how I'm doing it. So we'll go over banners. Okay, we'll go over to the actual spreadsheet. Now normally I do 7 tests per set. In this I've actually only done 5, just because there's so many tests. Like 29 tests times 5 tests, it was like 145 tests. Does that sound right? Yeah, 30 times 5 is 150. So I did 145 tests. If I would have done 7, it would have added 2 tests per. So I just wanted to get something fairly basic. And bringing it down from 7 tests to 5 is not that bad of an idea when you get pretty consistent results like I have in this set of tests. So I look at the cost of each unit. My Dwarf Warrior here costs 250. A Spearman at Arms costs 250 gold, so 450 to 250. Then I look at that start time that we noticed, 59 minutes and 50 seconds. And then I look at the end time, and that's when the unit routes. So the Spearman at Arm routed at 56 seconds and 56 minutes and 41 seconds. So the total battle time was 189 seconds. And I look at my Dwarf Warrior starting health of 5850 hit points and their end health 4748, and compare that to the Spearman at Arms, who ironically are 5850 and 1673 for their finishing. And then I get a DPS, a damage per second, for each unit. Of the Dwarf Warriors, we're doing 22.1 DPS, and the Spearman at Arm 5.8. And then what I do is I calculate a gold differential. So I look at a unit's finishing hit points to its starting hit points, and take that as a ratio and multiply it by their starting gold value, and do that the same with the other unit, their finishing to their end and their starting gold value, and look at the difference. So in this particular fight, my Dwarf Warriors dominated the Spearman at Arms. Now, they're going to dominate them, but even a unit that is a lower cost can pull value on you. And it turns out that I gained 94 gold in that encounter. So that was not only a win, but in a game where you're limited to the amount of gold, like multiplayer, where you start with 12,400 gold, a lot of these calculations and seeing how valuable a unit actually is based on that gold differential. How much gold are you pulling in that encounter? And that's why you'll hear lots of really great multiplayer players talk about the matchups they want. Really, what they're saying they want is they want those matchups which pull a very high value or gold differential, where they don't lose very much health on a unit, but they destroy a lot of the unit they're fighting. So I look at the total gold differential, and then I look at the gold per minute. And that's basically how much gold per minute you're pulling. Then a gold ratio is something that I'm not going to use in this, but that's basically how much gold that I have to spend to make that gold. And then the win-loss ratio, which we're not going to use. So I'm going to look at, in my evaluation of this, I'm going to look at the battle time. How long did the battle take versus how much gold did I have to spend? This is one of the things about expendable units that is important. Like, how long does a unit actually last when it's being beat up? And how much do I have to pay for that? If I paid 250 gold and this unit lasted 203 seconds, so I am getting approximately 0.9 seconds per gold spent lasting in that fight. And that's how I'm going to evaluate that versus Dwarf Warriors, and I'm running every unit against Dwarf Warriors. Now, one thing that is worth noting is that undead units are much more difficult to test because they crumble and they will not rout, even though they're crumbling. So what I did as a proxy for routing is the second their leadership went negative, that is when I stopped the battle against the undead. So the undead testing in terms of how long did they last, this is how long did they last before they started crumbling. So they'll have health left and that sort of thing. And that's the best I could do, because undead units are actually very difficult to test in a meaningful way. And they do have advantages in that not crumbling, in that because they won't rout, they do make very good tar pit units in that scenario. So that's really how I run the spreadsheet. And like I said, 145 tests to evaluate these 29 units, all against the Dwarf Warriors. So I have very consistent testing, a very consistent unit, and I can look at their gold differential. Like you can see here, the Spearmen at Arms with shields, you know, their gold differential was only 67 gold as opposed to just the base Spearmen at Arms, which was 94. Which is really interesting. Then I'll rank them based on how long they lasted versus how much gold they spent and how much gold they lost or won in that encounter, and the gold per minute. And that's what I'm basically going to look at. And I'll look at every faction. So Beastmen, Bretonia, down here to Dark Elves don't have any units. There's 3 factions that don't have any units 400 gold or under. One is Dark Elves. So Dwarves have 2, they're good. Greenskins, High Elves don't have any units underneath 400 gold. 400 gold or under, that is. Lizardmen do. Norska do. The Skaven have plenty. Skaven actually have a very nice lineup below 400 gold. Empire's good. Tomb Kings, Vampire Counts good. Warriors of Chaos, and the Wood Elves also do not have any units under 400. So all the elves, Wood Elves, High Elves, and Dark Elves, you can't really tell the difference between elves anyways, so that makes sense that none of them have units that are worth less than 400 gold or 400 gold or less. Now, my next set of testing, I'll probably go up, and I'm starting sort of backwards. You know, a lot of people love to talk about the highest tier units like Chosen and Hammers and Black Orcs and stuff like that. I'm kind of a sucker for, you know, understanding these cheaper units and how they perform, and especially the mid-tier units. So kind of units between, you know, 600 and 900 are sort of my favorite area. So hopefully I'll get to it, and I don't know if I will. This is a massive amount of testing, and I'm just picking away at this as I do it. And something else worth noting is in case you're watching this in the future, you know, maybe you're watching this in 2022 and you're wondering when this test was taken, and you could figure out by patch. I write the date here I did the test. So, you know, July 27th, 2018. And I'm doing that now so I can look back at my own testing and see when I took it, so I can look at these. And these are the actual numbers. So I'm going to do, what I will do is I'm going to show the middle 19 units from bottom worst to first on that. Then I'll show the worst 5 and then the top 5 units of everything under 400 gold. And again, this will be the best. Technically, the best way to describe this will be the best units against Dwarf Warriors, the best infantry units against Dwarf Warriors in a straight up fight. And this has some certain consequences, like I'm not going to test every little bit of that unit, but it is just going to be one test in a pantheon of possible tests for anyone to make their own evaluation. So obviously this isn't an absolute. This is just testing I love doing and I hope to share with you guys, and hope you find it interesting. And any kind of additional testing you could add to this, I would love to see, because I know there's quite a few of you guys out there that do your own testing. And I don't know how many are working spreadsheets, but I know there's some of you that absolutely do your own testing. So I would love to hear from you and other ways of doing this test. Now, I'm going to do this sort of the way that I want to do it because it's fun, right? It's fun for me. And if you find bits of testing you want to do, I would definitely encourage you to do your own testing. And even, like, if you got a YouTube channel, if you're watching it, post it up on your own channel. Like, I would love to see some of the people who watch this channel start their own little niche channels. I'll be your first subscriber to just show testing videos. You don't even have to talk. You can just show the test and show the spreadsheet of what your results are, stuff like that, just out of curiosity and for fun. I mean, it's I would absolutely love to see that. More people that have subscribed to this channel starting their own channel. Like, there are tons of guys that have even worked with and done testing I'd like to see start their own channels and do this sort of thing, because that's the kind of channel I love watching the most. It's very self-serving of me, I think. But anyway, so I'm going to share this set of tests. This is a sort of a long description of what it's going to do. And of course, again, some of the consequences are, okay, so we know spearmen are not going to bode well in an infantry fight because they have to give up something to get that charge defense and that anti-large and everything else like that. So there's going to be some things you can sort of expect, but I've done the testing and there's some definite things you won't expect, or at least I didn't expect. You always, that's why you do the testing, because you make a hypothesis and you think this is what it's going to end up being, and then you do the test and it's not ever quite like what you thought, which is really fantastic, because you always learn a little something when you do this sort of testing. And at least I do, and that's why I love testing and love data and love stats and love analysis, and I love comments and hearing from you guys. And any testing you've done, let me know. I'm absolutely curious as to all that stuff. And the one caveat here is these these undead units are so hard to test because of that crumbling mechanic. I think they tested out all right. I'm pretty happy with what the results I got doing it the way that I did it. I'd definitely be happy to hear other methods for testing undead units. Now, they all have also, they cause fear, and there's everything else. Like, there's lots of other little things that make units more or less valuable. And that's not really the point. Like a unit that, fighting against infantry, we know that, say, skeleton spearmen are not good against other infantry. They're good against large. So this test is just against infantry, so you can know that, okay, this unit stacks up here in just an infantry fight, and it happens to be anti-large, and it happens to have a shield, and it happens to have a charge that defense against large, so these things increase the value of my mind of this unit. And it also causes fear. So this is one really big data point for anyone who's making their own evaluations on units and whatnot. And it's just, for me, it's just a lot of fun. I love testing, and I'll look forward to sharing this and with you guys. And my next set of tests I'm going to do a little bit differently, because you can't get a unit that every single unit under 400 gold beats. You just can't work it that way. But I think the next set of tests from 400 to 600, I'm going to do two sets of tests, one where they all lose to a unit and one where they all beat a unit, and combine them to make my final evaluation for infantry. Maybe we'll see. This is just a massive amount of testing. So, but that's something I have fun. I love doing it, and it just passes the time. For me, it's very relaxing. My job can be very stressful at times. It's very, very busy. So to me, it's nice to just run units into units and watch my Dowie beat them up. It's very cathartic. So anyways, that's the long explanation of what the tests are going to be. The next 4 videos are going to be, one is going to be the 19 units that were in the middle. Then I will do the bottom 5 units under 400 gold, then the top 5 infantry units under 400 gold. Then the last video, I will do sort of a post discussion where I will show all of the data, so you can all see that data and you can see how I rank them, because I do also like my testing to be very transparent, because in 145 tests, I guarantee I've made mistakes. It's gonna happen. You can't not make mistakes when you do that much testing. Despite trying to be very careful and trying to do your own methods so that you don't mess anything up, you always just make mistakes. So I want to present that in a kind of as transparent a way as possible, so that A, any mistakes that I make are clearly visible to anyone who's paying attention, and B, you can repeat the tests yourself and verify them, and C, really it is a data set that is available to everyone for all time on this game to see where it was. It'd be kind of interesting. Maybe someone looks back and it's 2050 and there's Warhammer, the third version of Warhammer comes out and they want a little bit of retro action, and they want to watch some old testing and what people people did before there were flying cars. I don't know. But hopefully I'm still alive to make comments. We'll see. I don't know. I'll try and make it as long as I can just so I can reply to comments. Anyways, that's the video. That's the sort of segue to the next 3 that are coming up. I hope you'll find it interesting. I hope you're excited to see it. And I'm going to try and expand my editing limits and try and make a more edited video. It's not going to be as good as someone like Party Elite, or Janet on Occasion, or these guys that really are very good at editing and doing cinematics. But I'll try and expand my own YouTube ability and video making ability and edit in something that maybe looks a little nicer. And we'll see how that works out. So, anyways, hope you found that interesting. Hope you're looking forward to it, and I will see you soon.